Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to episode number 161 of Speaking from the Heart. And I know that I'm going to sound like the annoying father, grandfather, uncle, whoever you might associate with me when it comes to repeating the same advice over and over again. But today's episode is going to focus into a little bit of maybe some things that you've heard of me say before around this time last year when we were introducing some of these concepts. But in direct correlation to episode 159, I want to expand a little bit about what we had as our conversation last week of ways in which you can communicate more effectively, but now dealing with your goals. Because let's face it, now it's yet another week, one step closer to getting to New Year's 2025. Have you set your resolutions yet? Is it still too early for you to still be thinking about it? Are you going to wait yet one more week when I talk about it next week? Which I promise you, I won't. I have a different topic for next week. But I want to dive into a little bit of why is it so important for us to think about all the different types of tools that are at our disposal to now communicate that message that you've been hiding or even not sure of how you should be saying it this time around. Now, if you were missing last week's episode, let me give you a quick recap. We talked about how it's so important for us, especially when we have these great thoughts slipping our minds, being able to communicate them effectively. We need to make sure that we're doing that not only for the people that we have in our lives that need to hear that message, but also we need to be able to empower ourselves. We need to have the confidence to charge forward, knowing that that's what we want to share. Now, there's a lot more that I offered, which I again encourage you to go back and listen before you listen to this full episode. But before I even dig into this, let me ask you a question. Did you ever listen to any of my episodes last year, even if you're newer to the podcast, when I talked about using vision boards, setting goals, maybe even getting some accountability behind the table of all the things that you wanted to achieve? Well, I'm going to even refer you to some of those episodes from last year, which if you start looking around the October 2023 timeframe, you'll start to see some of them pop up. But I'm not going to spill the beans on what those were all about either. I would love for you to check those out and start setting up tools just like that to help you propel yourself forward. The goal here is not to give you everything on a silver platter, but to give you some suggestions, some tidbits of ways in which you can navigate through some of the challenges that you have with goal setting, accountability, and so much more. Now this time, I want to challenge the status quo. For those that have hung in there, thanks for bearing with me as I got through some of those pesky little nuances. Because the things that are really the pesky nuances that we need to focus on is the way in which we're able to empower ourselves to challenge that status quo so that we're no longer losing additional minutes, hours, days, months, or years on the things that we keep on putting aside. We can't wait yet another year. We still got time this year to start some of the things that we can achieve and potentially even wrap up before the end of this year to become the best version that we've set out to do. One of the things that I learned in this year that was really empowering for me is to work on the concept of narrative vision boards. It's the same sort of tack that you might think from a traditional vision board, but now we're going to sway it with the things that you want to achieve, putting it into a short little narrative that would help you with writing the story of what it would look like to live in those thoughts, feelings, emotions of accomplishment, envisioning what that empowered future would look like. But at the very end, taking you on that visionary journey, getting you to where you need to be. Narratives have so much context. They have so many different directions that we can go in. I love using it, and I even used it for the federally employed women earlier this year with my workshop in which I empowered them, each of those federally employed women, to work on their visionary story of what they want to achieve in the workplace and what they want to achieve outside of the workplace. There is a balance between the personal and professional aspects of our lives. We need to figure out what are the best ways to have those kinds of conversations, have the types of people that we want to have those conversations with, but more importantly, feel like we're part of that table. That table, whether it's with somebody else that is our boss, whether it's the owner of the company, or it could be even what your employees are dealing with, being that you're in charge of them, that would help them to see what they're capable of doing. And that, my friends, is the exact reason why I want to empower you today to challenge what your mindset is of what you can potentially become and what you can encourage yourself in doing to become the best version of yourself with that idea or that thought accomplished. New Year's resolutions don't have to be scary. They don't have to be something that is really out of reach. They can be within your grasp. It's just using the SMART goal methodology, which we have continuously talked about on this show, and maybe even something that you've already utilized in your own daily life that would help you to make more specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound goals. Those processes are even laid out in yet another episode. So you might be throwing your hands up in the air and saying, Josh, you keep on pointing yourself all over the place to all these different episodes. What's the point of even listening to this? Well, here is the point that I'm trying to make. And if you give me a few more moments, you will start to see how the power of narratives can change everything. As somebody that has really studied public speaking for a living and has been able to do that now for almost 13 years through my Toastmasters experience, one thing has run true. And even in episode 159, I started to discuss with you about how table topics, the impromptu portion of those meetings, have made such a significant difference in my overall viewpoints, the ways in which we can share our thoughts, opinions, feelings, whatever is on our mind to an audience. But the one thing that I didn't describe in last week's episode was about the power of what prepared speeches can do and what the power of stories can ultimately share. One of the most rewarding things about being able to work on yourself is to be able to then share the results with others. It's essentially a testimony, a legend, and an ability for us to create that level of context for others to follow our footsteps, which I've always said, it's about creating your own path. But the power of stories and being able to share them in so many different ways has allowed me to see what I'm truly capable of becoming. It has allowed me to see that I do have gifts that I otherwise would have never seen in this ever-changing world. In matter of fact, many of the people that had growing up with me never thought in a million years that I would be able to share the stories that I've been able to share because they didn't believe in what I had to offer. We talked about in so many different ways about how we can create those best personal lives, professional lives, even business development lives in our whole entire existence. And there's so many more tools. There's so much more to share. This could go on for quite a while. But yet, the stories that I've been able to learn to tell through Toastmasters and through all the experiences with the clients that I have certainly shown that nothing is impossible. It allows us to challenge the status quo every time that we think about ways in which we can empower our audience to become better, not only with the things that we're teaching them, but in the ways in which we can inspire them to take action today. If it isn't for that call to action, my public speaking would never be at the level that it is today. It has the power to change it all if you're willing to interweave and interconnect all the different thoughts, all the different pieces of string, and combine them all into one wonderful tapestry or picture that you're trying to create. Those are masterful speakers that are able to share so many types of messages with different types of context. Even for some of the people that have never even heard of this before, hear me out. If you are able to just work on a couple of speeches in which to give you the basic premise of what you're trying to share with your audience, trust me on this, you already then have over 50 types of speeches that you could give to a variety of different audiences. 50? Is that what you really said, Josh? 50 types of stories? Yes. That is just the baseline of the amount that you could even give to audiences across the globe. But you're not that type of person, I'm sure you're asking yourself. I'm just a guy or a gal that's just working in a low-key job that doesn't really have to have that kind of power. I'm comfortable with where I'm at. But the thing is that you also have a message just as important as a keynote speaker, somebody that has been accomplished making millions, even billions of dollars doing what they're doing now. It's really important to understand that you need to know your worth. So hear me out when I say to you that that message that we were talking about last week is even more important now because of everything that you're going to set as goals, the things that will hold you accountable, the narratives that you are trying to create for yourself easily rub off on somebody else. And that is why we need to be reminded today that in order for us to move forward into this new year that we're soon going to begin, we have to be reminded of what we're truly capable of becoming. That is why the power of storytelling can have severe ramifications, whether it's for the positive or for the negative. The stories that we have, especially the stories that I've told myself especially, can be gruesome. You might be uncomfortable with what you have to share. And even the narrative that you're telling yourself, you might not exactly believe. But when you manifest goals and you put them together with the story that you really want to tell of yourself, the future version of X, Y, and Z, that can be such a visionary journey to create the ultimate potential that you have on what some coaches might even call the wheel of life. But it's not by random choice, or even if it is that you believe that because of your religion or creed. Just know that because of all the things that have already been predetermined, you have something that is worth sharing. My friend, who happened to be the very first guest on this podcast in episode 2, Chris Halls, even has said that to a number of different Toastmasters now that he's moved into his role as District Director of District 38. His motto, "You have a voice," is based on numerous types of things that relate to even our subject today, which is trying to find that ever-changing message, that story that you have inside yourself. But he has shared something that is from Robert Brown that I think might be even more important to our context of this conversation today, which is as follows. If you can speak, you can influence. If you can influence, you can change lives. Isn't that why we're here, listening to Speaking from the Heart? Isn't it about influencing others to be able to change their lives, whether we think it's such a small deal, medium deal, or big deal when it comes to the things that we have gone through? This podcast has always been an example for others of what we can ultimately unlock within ourselves. But even with knowing that you have a voice, it means that you have to understand inherently what you can create, not just from the manifestations that you have inside yourself, but how you can create so many other opportunities for people in all the different areas of your life that really desperately need change. Your example, your story that you have to share, can magnify all kinds of different opportunities across the globe. Regardless of what you might feel, whatever you might be holding back towards, know that being able to share that story and manifesting it into existence, if it's not here today, can have things that you never ever dreamed of coming alive. For a period of my life, I had believed that I would never amount to anything. I would never be able to find a voice to be able to share my visionary board that I have narratively, because I thought I wasn't creative enough. I thought that I lacked the persistence or the pursuit of what I thought would be my ultimate manifest destiny. But the thing is that we have this composure within ourselves to be able to step up, to be heard, even if we're just given a few minutes to share what we have as an ultimate tale of redemption, of success, no matter how great or small it might be. I think that you need to stop saying to yourself that your story and what you have to achieve mean nothing, and change the status quo of what it means to really, truly step out of your comfort zone, just like I am doing on this microphone every single week. I know that if a bunch of women that are federally employed can do it, and if I know that a gym right up the road from me can also do the same, I know that you, my listeners, can achieve that as well. Sure, it might be a little bit uncomfortable to begin with, and you might have the little bit of the heebie-jeebies trying to figure out whether it makes really much sense or not. But that's why I'm here. That's why coaches exist. We're willing to be sounding boards without any judgment whatsoever. And if you are seeing someone that's judging you, they are not a coach. They are not helping you. They only have their best interests in mind. And you need to understand that you need that extra layer of support, that extra encouragement to become not just the best version of yourself, but to see a visionary future that you can live in and you can accept on your own terms. Because I think that you have every equal opportunity, just like my clients, to become what you always wanted to be, even if it was when you were a little kid, dreaming those big dreams that you always had. And let's be real, it had to be said yet again, you are worthy of everything that you always wanted to achieve, and so much more. Thanks for listening to episode number 161 of Speaking from the Heart, and I look forward to hearing from your heart very soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.